Hi, everybody. Human expression and the arts encompasses literature, the performing arts, and visual arts, and offers a multifaceted exploration of human expression throughout the ages. This course delves into how diverse literary works, performances, and visual art forms reflect and shape individual experience, cultural heritage, and societal norms. A distinctive feature of this course is its Lutheran perspective, which integrates how Christianity and ethics interact with these artistic mediums. This approach enriches the understanding of art as a vessel for conveying human emotions, cultural identities, historical contexts, and theology. The book that you will need for this course is The Art of Being Human by Gennaro. The gifts of the humanities, what do they really bring to us? They are beauty. So we're going to look at what is beautiful and gives pleasure. Beauty varies by culture. Beautiful movement, elegant movement of the human form, giving us pleasure and language. The humanities offer models of excellence in human speech. Ideas, beautiful language helps transform intuition into thoughts and ideas. Socrates' method provides a model for developing thought. A deeper understanding of the past, the experiences of those that came before us, and a better understanding of life and of ourselves today. So beauty is subjective, but as a society, we still have general agreements about the spectrum of beauty, and we're going to be looking at those in this course. So, what am I? Who am I? Why am I in this world? And where do I go from here? These are all the questions that have puzzled man over the extent of his existence. So we're going to look at all of those questions and the way that different cultures and different ages have answered those questions. We learn what it is to be human by studying humans, by studying humanity. This encounter is made possible for us because people have left behind their ideas. They have left it for us in the humanities. So the humanities generally refers to art, literature, music, architecture, and dance. The learning objectives for this course will be to define the humanities, to summarize the gifts of the humanities, to explain why Leonardo da Vinci is considered the perfect model of the infinite person. So what does that really mean? A Renaissance man. And so these areas in which humanities subjectivity is emphasized and individual expressiveness is dramatized, the records of human experience, his or her values, sentiments, ideas, and goals, and ultimately the expression of human feelings. During the Renaissance, humanities were referred to as a set of disciplines taught by the universities, which included grammar, rhetoric, history, literature, music, and philosophy, a body of knowledge aimed to make a human person a full person, i.e., a cultured, refined, and well-rounded human being. The humanities thus provide more than just an appreciation for what is the truth, the good, the beautiful. These concepts, which vary from age to age and from country to country. The humanities are aimed to shape a student's subjective energies, feelings, attitudes, and aspirations in accordance with a particular view of the social world in which he or she dreams, acts, and fulfills themselves. The view about human and the world in which humans change, and so too the content and direction of the humanities, but in all cases, their principal task remains the same, which is to make a conscious and critical and sensitive and responsive to the norms of hopes of society. So the humanities versus the social sciences, they're two somewhat different areas. So in the humanities, we look at people as an individual. In social science, we look at types and groups of people, institutions, and processes of society. In the humanities, we're looking at the internal world of the human. What is their personality? What are their experiences? What are their thoughts? What are their feelings? How did they react to those things, and how did it change them? External world is of people, social relations, and so on. In the humanities, we're looking at the study of nature, generally subjective, the use of perception, feeling, intuition, and insight. And in the social sciences, we're looking at scientific, generally objective, subject to observation and measurement and experimentation. So define the humanities using the presentations in this class. How will the study of the humanities be relevant to your course, and explain that? Which form or component of the study of humanities can you express yourself best, and why and how? These are all things I want you to think about as you answer some of the discussion questions, so that you can put your views into those questions. So historical development of the humanities, we could take any period and we'll see that they're somewhat different. So if we look at the ancient period, the humanities were writings about the moral teachings by Latin writers and philosophers, or Greek writers and philosophers. We can look at the Greek tragedy. We are going to look at that. The medieval period, maybe between the 12th and 14th centuries, we start to see medieval universities. Professors were interested in metaphysics and religion and scholasticism, and the goal was the cultivation of spiritual life and the preparations for life hereafter. So during the Renaissance, between the 15th and the 18th century, we see the humanities were disciplines in schools and universities, focused and asserted on the intrinsic value of human life on earth, his or her essential worth, and capacity for self-advancement in the world. Thus, it included Greek literature, fine arts, music, history, theology, philosophy, and rhetoric. In modern contemporary times, we see the rise of the social science affected or stunted the further development of humanities as a free and encompassing discipline. People's thoughts, feelings, expressions, mediums were overshadowed by scientific formulas and systems. So in the arts, the meaning and nature constitute one of the oldest and most important means of expressions developed by people. Art has been created by people at all times. So we know that it has gone on for centuries and centuries since we were people. It lives because it's liked and because it's enjoyed. And it's just like if you think about a little infant, and as they grow, and they're around that 1 year age, they'll grab onto something that makes a mark. And they will make marks without being asked to make marks. They'll make marks on their body. They'll make marks on the wall. They will make marks anywhere that they can, right? Once they realize that that tool, that marker in their hand makes a mark, there's just complete excitement. So what is it about us? You don't have to tell a child to make marks. They just do it. As soon as they find that and they have the ability and they can hold it in their hand, they can grasp it strong enough, they start doing it on their own. So we consider mark making a God-given, innate part of being human. We don't just, insist on it. We teach the alphabet, or we teach someone how to sing, or we teach them how to talk or how to walk. Those are all things that we work with as, we teach children. But mark making, they do all on their own. So why don't we use it more? Why don't we understand it or respect it more? So mark making and art involves personal experience of an individual accompanied by intensity of emotion. Art is a product of people's needs to express themselves and is not limited to emotions alone. Works of art reflect also the milieu of an artist and therefore is not free from the influence of their social environment, their political, cultural, geographical, scientific, and technological environment. And also, appreciating a work of art implies an intellectual involvement, which also should be appreciated. So the functions of art are to find, for us, once the artist finishes with the work, they're done. And now we are enjoying it. We're looking at it. We're being part of it. So we become the authors. It's kind of like, when you were in high school and there was that one song and it reminded you of that one time, and there was that one person that, you wanted to have a date and everything or whatever. And, you have this relationship, and that song, every time you hear it now, 10 years later, whatever, you think of that person. It's always like, that was our song. But yet the author, the writer, the musician didn't know you, didn't know this other person, had no reason to write it for you that way. So they wrote it for an entirely different reason, and they put it out in there, and they said, here's my expression, and now you get it, and you listen to it, and you give it meaning. So you give it your own meaning. You assign your own meaning by what you know. So sometimes you only can assign meaning from, where you're coming from, because you haven't done any research. It's like if I said to you, okay, here's an MRI machine. Can you tell me how it works? Well, they're pretty complicated. They have work with magnets. We know that. And somehow they take a picture because of the magnets. Well, how that all works would take us a little research, wouldn't it? So a lot of times what people do is they look at a piece of art for face value, or a piece of music for face value, and they never go behind the scenes. They never go to look at, like, well, what does this all mean, and why, and where did that come from? So there's another video that I have in this section by a man by the name of Erwin Panofsky, and he talks about how to write about art. We're going to use it in terms of visual art, but this could be any form. This could be opera, theater, music, doesn't matter. But it talks about how do you start to look at things and break them down in a realistic way that helps you with your writing. So the art, to find meaning in art, it must serve a utilitarian purpose and be capable of serving the purpose for which it was designed. And so by utilitarian, I don't mean just like, oh, it has to be a bucket and it has to hold water, but that water really tastes good and it makes us feel good and it's pleasurable. And so there's a whole array of what we mean when we say utilitarian. Okay? Because being happy is part of being human. At least I think so. Okay, so the influences of collective behavior or people for a cause. Many works of art were primarily made to perform certain functions to make our lives comfortable. Music, which is the art of combining and regulating sounds of varying pitches to produce compositions expressive of various ideas and emotions that are pleasing, are basically functional. The two sources of music in its origin are dance and religion. Sculpture, which is the art of carving, molding, or producing works of art in 3 dimensions as a relief or an intaglio, is more functional than painting and literature. Examples: religion and its churches, coins, icons, monuments, and other items. So, we look at the physical functions of art, we see a very different kind of thing. So there's 2 schools of thought about the arts. The artist who believes solely in art for art's sake, or art is plain aesthetics and individual satisfaction. We just like it and we're going to, we make it and that's why we do it. So the basic belief and value system would be the world and society is stable and in harmony and therefore should never be shaken. There is need to contribute to make it desirable and a convenient place to live. Choice of subject matter should be natural objects, flowers, rivers, physical bodies, mountains, trees, etc. Content should be serenity, purity, stability, and harmony. And forms, from indigenous to expensive materials. Style could be anything from, surrealism, abstract, and realism. Artists who believe in arts as a medium or an instrument or social change, depicting social realities and advocating for change or reforms. So these basic beliefs and values are: the world and society is constantly changing, that it's in conflict, there is a need to change it, and you can do that by being an influencer, and you all are familiar with those nowadays, and you can make it prosperous and equitable. Choice of subject could be social issues like injustice, oppression, exploitation. Indigenous materials, style, social realism, surrealism. Okay. So the subjects of art can be either representational or non-representational. So we think of like abstract art, like jazz. There's not like a regular beat. There isn't a rhythm that's something we know. It's improv, right? Where representational art could be very much about, something you could dance to, sort of a rhythm that's 2/4 time, that kind of thing. So we can look at these of different forms of art, like art in, painting, sculpture, drawing, and so on. And then we can look at music, and we can see those same kind of, colorful ways of expressing ourselves. So it's all about expression at the end of the day. So the ways of presenting the subject. So in realism, the objects are depicted in the way they would normally appear. In abstraction, it does not show the subject at all as an object reality, but only an idea of it or a feeling about it. A technique of simplifying and reorganizing objects and elements according to the artist's creative expression. The objects have been reduced to simple geometric shapes and can be rarely identified unless the artist tells you what they are, or it's in the title. Distortion is a technique employed by the artist to dramatize the shape of a figure in order to create an emotional effect. Twisting, stretching, or deforming the natural form and shape of the object or the caricature of the object. Surrealism is a combination of realism and distortion, sort of dreamlike, so surreal or dreamlike kind of existence. So this is a wonderful painting. It's called The Persistence of Memory by Salvador Dali. We owe this great Catalan painter the notable quote. He said, "I am surrealism." So the creation of The Persistence of Memory dates back to 1931. During that year, Spain suffered from great political instability. Indeed, the country was experiencing the early beginnings of the Second Spanish Republic, which was soon disrupted by the Civil War in 1936. The events led to Franco's accession to power in 1939. Spain experienced a period of great poverty after the dictator came into power, and because it was caught between two totalitarian regimes, a monarchy and a dictatorship. Prior to that, the Great War unveiled an unprecedented brutality, which is rejected by new generations of artists. It is from this deep disgust that the spirit of Dadaism and Surrealism are born. The group rejects the conventional definition of art and its traditions. It doesn't want to be historical. It doesn't want to do what's always been done. So the idea lives through Surrealism, which its founder, André Breton, defines as pure physic automatism in the absence of any control exercised by reason. And that's in the Manifesto of Surrealism from 1924. So Surrealism is deeply inspired by psychoanalysis. And of course, what do we have happening right prior to this is Freud and his psychoanalysis. So we see this idea of, kind of analyzing dreams, thinking about the unconscious. Themes such as the unconscious, dreams, time, and death are explored in many different disciplinary movements. Salvador Dali joins the Surrealists in 1929 after meeting some members of the group. He meets Joan Miro and he invites him. He's introduced to the woman he'll soon marry. Her name is Gala, via her then husband, Paul Eduardo. At the time when he paints The Persistence of Memory, Dali is reconstructing himself, both personally and artistically, and he is fully exploring the Surrealist period. And here we can see this is a picture of him with his soon-to-be wife, Gala. So let's take a look at the themes here. So Salvador Dali's Persistence of Memory plunges the viewer into a dreamlike experience. Definitely a strange universe where hard and soft surfaces seem to coexist together. The artwork opposes surrealism to reality and questions the ineluctability of time. So we can't really define time, can we? Because we have this memory. And so it cements the artist's obsession for its symbolism. Are we at the mercy of time? One thing Dali makes very clear is that time passes, but leaves behind memories. The memory continues to persist. We must break down the painting into different elements as numbered. So, number 1, the soft watches, symbolizing time, which is relative in movement, as in our dreams, past and present and future all seem to happen at the same time and function in a kind of synergy. Each watch is placed on a different surface, representing these 3 temporal ideas, right? So this idea of past, present, and future. Number 2, the orange watch does not melt. It echoes the passing of time as it is turned over and covered by ants. Number 3, the ants invade the solid watch and symbolize decomposition and death. The painter made this link as a child when he observed ants swarming over the remains of a dying bat. And so he, thought about, well, what is happening here? Number 4, time flies and passes. It's represented by the insect. So see the insect here, right on above the long hand. Number 5, a strange object, or rather character, is lying on the ground and could represent the painter or the inner world and its dreamlike nature. Number 6, the mirror embodies inconsistency as it reflects reality as well as the imaginary. Number 7, the olive tree is a symbol of the dry, dead sign of the past. And number 8, Dali symbolizes his emotion and emptiness by the empty shoreline. And number 10 is sort of the danger of the rocky shoreline and what can happen thereof. And number 11, we see the shadow of the sun, like as the time of the day is passing. So very wonderful painting. There's a lot to it, and like I said, when we think about art, there's so much more than just our face value. So I'm hoping this is a nice introduction for you, and I'm looking forward to reading your work and hearing your questions, and I hope you enjoy the class. Until next time.